creatures because obviously they don't have the properties of a living organisms. So literally we didn't classify viruses in any kingdom of life. So there are six kingdoms of life, but there is in these six kingdoms there is no virus. Okay. So viruses does not belong to any kingdom. It is not a plant or an animal. It is not a fungi, protist or bacteria. Then what is a virus? Virus is just a, a non-living genetic material. I can say it's a non-living genetic material which has the capability of self-replicating upon introducing it into a living cell. If it entered into any living cell, then it will cause infection. So viruses are a non-living genetic material. So this is my definition. Okay. So that is what I felt. So viruses are non-living genetic material, which will, which has the properties of replicating, which has the properties of giving babies or reproducing with the help of a living cell. They will relay or they are obligatory intracellular infective pathogens. They cannot live individually. Huh? Final year, sir. 12:30 to 1:30 slot. 12:30 to 1:30 slot. Okay. Fine. Students, final years, you must join in VCMM meeting at 12:30 to 1:30 slot, not at 11 to 12. And attendance is utmost important, mandatory. Okay. So your slot is 12:30 to 1:30. So for she will give an overview on CBCS. 11 o'clock, okay. You need not to join at 11 o'clock. Keep in mind. You need not to join at 11 o'clock. You must join only in 12:30 to 1:30, and the VC ma'am will take class for you on CBCS, this choice-based credit system. Okay, students. Finally, okay, students. Fine. Okay. So I think yeah, they stopped. Coming to the viruses. So viruses are just a living genetic materials. They are not even a living creatures. I cannot say living. They are just a semi-living genetic material or bodies. Okay. They requires a living cell for their replication. So they are obligate intracellular, obligate they are obligate intracellular infective agents. Okay. They cannot live outside the cell. Then I will give you a important terms. Kindly remember these terms, students. Virus outside the cell is a dead body. It's a dead cell, we can say, because outside the cell, virus don't have any properties. It cannot do anything outside the cell. Only once the virus is inside the body, inside the cell, then only it will show its pathogenicity. It will show its virulence to us. Only if the virus is inside the body, then it will show its presence. It will show its attack on us. If the virus is outside, it can't do anything. Okay, that is why when the virus is outside the cell, then such particles are called virions. Virion means it is a virus that is present outside the cell. It is called virion. If the virus present inside the cell, then it is called virus. If virus present inside the cell, it is called virus. If it is present outside the cell, then it is called virion. Then the baby viruses, the offsprings, the immature viral bodies present inside the cell or the babies of viruses are called virioids. Virioids means viral babies. Virion means virus outside the cell, whereas virus means which is present inside the cell. Okay, if the virus present inside the cell, it is called virus. If it is outside the cell, it is called virion. And the baby viruses are called virioids. Virioids means baby viruses are called virioids. So these terms you need to remember. Now, so these things we already discussed. So by the definition of life, the virus can only give only satisfy these two properties of life. One is virus can able to replicate. They can able to produce offsprings by replication, and viruses will also evolve through time, which is very unique for living organisms. Through time, generation to generation, they will evolve. They will transform into a new forms. They will evolve through time, and even viruses will show evolution. Their antigenicity, their properties, their morphology, their behavior, their their biological properties will be changed time to time. They can able to evolve. Okay, because of this evolving nature of viruses and because of this replicative property of viruses, we must agree that viruses are a semi-living organisms. I'm still saying semi, okay? They are not true living organisms. Yeah. Okay. So because of these two properties, we said viruses are a living bodies because of their replication properties and their evolving properties. We have included virus as a living bodies. Then virus cannot reproduce, but virus can replicate. If you are using the word reproduction of virus, that will be a blunder mistake. Virus can able to replicate. Virus won't reproduce. You need to be clear about this point. Okay. Then let us discuss about the size. So we already discussed the size. So virus is one of the smallest living organism, very small. Virus will be measured not in the micrometers, not in the centimeters, but it will be measured in nanometers, very, very smallest unit. Okay, viruses are the smallest living creatures. And there is a term,
Excuse me, sir.
students. Yes, yes, Mr. Mm,
Yes, sir.
mm,
Sir, if virus is not a living cell,
mm.
so how can it cause a disease to the human body, or how can it enter to the human body to cause a diseases? Because it is not a living cell. How
It is
can it
not a living.
cause a disease to the human being? Yeah.
Very good question, Simon. So if virus is not a living cell, how it will cause infection to a living cell? That is really good question. See, Simon, you need to understand the properties of the cell, the properties of a living cell. So in the living cell, we have nucleus. In the nucleus, we have DNA, right? This uh, we can say living cell because living cell will have metabolism. Living cell can able to synthesize proteins. Living cell will utilize energy and it will synthesize proteins such as hemoglobin, albumin, all your starch, lipids, everything will be synthesized by a living cell. The organism that can able to, that has metabolism can be defined as a living creature. And one of the best example will be cell. So you need to understand the mechanism of cell. So in the cell, what happens is, imagine I need to make a protein. I need to make a protein, hemoglobin. How I can make a hemoglobin? How a cell can make a hemoglobin? First, hemoglobin information will present in the DNA. Now, in the DNA, where there is hemoglobin information, that particular portion of DNA will come outside the nucleus in the form of RNA. This DNA will be cutted, this hemoglobin DNA will be cutted, and this will come outside the nucleus as a RNA. Now, this RNA, this RNA will go to the ribosomes. This RNA will go to the ribosomes, and ribosomes will make the hemoglobin protein. RNA has hemoglobin information. This RNA will go to the ribosome and ribosome will make the hemoglobin protein. This is the mechanism of the cell. Now, what a virus will do is, virus does not have nucleus. Virus does not have ribosomes. Virus does not have any cell organelles. But a virus has a genetic material. A virus has a genetic material. It can be either DNA, it can be RNA. Now, what virus will do is, virus will insert, imagine it is an RNA virus. Okay. Now, what virus will do is, viral RNA virus will insert its RNA in the cell cytoplasm. This virus will introduce its RNA into cell cytoplasm. Now, our cells cannot identify the difference between self RNA and non-self RNA, or self DNA and non-self DNA, because whatever DNA or whatever RNA present inside the cell, that must be our own DNA, our own RNA. That is what the cell will think, because no outside intruder can able to enter into a cell inside the cell. Now, what our cell will do is, it will take the viral RNA bit. Now, what information present in the viral RNA? Viral RNA will have information regarding production of viral proteins. Viral DNA will have instructions to prepare viral proteins, viral DNA or viral RNA. Now, a smart virus will introduce its RNA inside the cell. Now, this RNA will go to the nearby ribosome, and the ribosome will start synthesizing the proteins that are instructed by the RNA. So what type of information present in RNA? Now the RNA has viral protein information. Now the ribosome will blindly follow the instructions, and ribosome will start producing viral proteins in the cell. These viral proteins will assemble to form a virus. So virus not done anything here. It smartly introduces its genetic material and cell will do the job. Cell will become hypnotized and cell will blindly prepare viral particles. Cell will think that it is preparing its own proteins, but it is not preparing cellular proteins, but rather than it is preparing a viral proteins. So that is why I said yesterday, viruses are the biological hackers. They're the smartest organisms with the simplest body morphology. Now you understood, right, Simon? Even the virus is not a living cell, but the way their strategy is very interesting. They always dependent on a living cells for their survival. They must have a living cell for their replication. They don't have the replicatory machinery. They will hijack the already existing replicatory machinery to replicate their DNA or RNA. Today, how many of you understood this concept? Is there any more confusions regarding viruses? Do you got some idea how viruses replicating? Yes, Rocky. Any doubts?
No, sir.
No, right? It is like this, students. See, whatever instructions we are giving to computer, it will follow. It will prepare it will execute the following code. So similarly, the virus will introduce its genetic material into cell. That's it. The only thing virus need to achieve is how it is going to enter inside cell. That need to be taken care by the virus. How the virus will attach to the cell, how the virus will penetrate into the cell, how the virus will release its genetic material, how the virus genetic material can able to bind with the ribosomes, how the ribosomes can able to synthesize the proteins, and how these proteins are matured to form a baby virus. So the only thing that virus need to mind is how it is going to insert its DNA into the cell. The mechanism of insertion of DNA or RNA into cell is the basic strategy of viruses. They have multiple approaches to introduce the RNA or DNA into cell. If they introduce the RNA DNA means that's it, and the cell will do the job for them. So they are the smartest secret agents. So they know how to sneak into a cell. Okay. Simon, is it clear for you? Have you understood my concept?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's clear now.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, coming to the size. I will tell one point now. Kindly pay attention, students, regarding the size of the virus. Imagine clearly the smallest bacteria we have. Okay, bacteria itself is a very small. Among those bacteria, there is a smallest bacteria. So the smallest bacteria size is 200 nanometers. The smallest bacteria size is 200 nanometers. So I'm drawing here, it is 200 nanometers. So the smallest bacteria size is 200 nanometers. Okay. Now, the largest virus, world's largest virus, the size of the world's largest virus is 200 nanometers. Now you understood, right? How much small viruses are? The world's largest virus is 200 nanometers and world's smallest bacteria is 200 nanometers. So the largest virus is the size equivalent to the smallest bacteria. So the largest virus is actually pox virus. Pox virus has a diameter around 200 nanometers. Still it is nanometers, keep in mind, okay? And the smallest bacteria is 200 nanometers. So the largest virus is the size of the smallest bacteria available. So the smallest virus is 9 nanometers. It is Picornaviridae, picoRNA viruses. So picornaviruses and polioviruses are the smallest two viruses with a body diameter of 9 nanometers. Okay, I will tell nanometers means. How can I say nanometer? It is a millionth of a centimeter. In the centimeter, the millionth portion will be the nanometer. The millionth portion of a centimeter is nanometer. Very, very small. Okay, and that much small these viruses are. Okay, the smallest virus is around 9 nanometers in size. And our corona is around 74 to 102, around 100 nanometers size. Okay, moderately a medium size virus, corona. Okay, so viruses are really smallest organisms. Okay, so as I said right. So the largest bacteria, the smallest bacteria is 200 nanometers, and the largest virus is 200 nanometers. So the largest virus is actually tobacco mosaic virus and pox viruses. So tobacco mosaic and pox viruses are the largest viruses. Okay, so yeah. And this since virus is so small, we require a specialized microscope to detect these viruses. So we require electron microscope. It can be either scanning electron microscope or tunneling electron microscope. So we need either SEM or TEM for identifying these viruses. And the cost of this microscope is it's in lakhs and crores. So we cannot keep these microscopes in a normal laboratories. I said how the virus will replicate. So the virus will replicate only by using the living cell machinery. So without living cell, virus cannot replicate. Virus is a obligate intracellular infective agent. That means, keep in mind, students, there is no symbiotic viruses. Keep in mind. I hope you know the meaning of symbiosis. Symbiosis means mutual understanding, mutual helping is called symbiotic relation. So there is no symbiotic viruses. All viruses are infective agents. There is no good virus and bad virus. All viruses are bad viruses, okay? Keep in mind. They are obligatory intracellular infective agents. There is no such thing as good viruses. But we have good bacteria. We have good fungi, but there is no good virus. Keep in mind. Okay. So now we know that how a cell works. So cell will have a DNA and it will have RNA, and RNA will convert to a protein. So similarly, the viruses will replicate in the similar fashion. So virus will first attach to the cell, then it will penetrate into the cell. Then virus will remove its genetic material. This is called uncoating. So after uncoating, this genetic material will start synthesizing proteins. This is called biosynthesis. After these proteins will assemble to form a baby viruses, and these baby viruses will be released out from the cell. This release can happen either in the budding or by lytic cycle. So these are the stages of viral replication, starting with attachment of virus, penetration, uncoating, biosynthesis, assembly, and release of viruses. Okay, so this is the basic replication of virus. Then there are a few viruses that are called retroviruses, where these are RNA viruses that will convert RNA to DNA, and this DNA will come back to RNA and protein. So such reverse viruses are called retroviruses. One of the celebrity retrovirus is HIV. So HIV is a retrovirus, and because of this retrogenicity, because of this conversion of RNA to DNA, the rate of mutations are high. Because of high mutations, it will change its morphology for every generation. It is a pleomorphic virus. Because of this pleomorphism, it is really challenging for us to develop any vaccines or drugs to target these particular viruses, because they will change their properties each and every time when they are replicating inside the body. That is why after 30 to 40 years of extensive developments in the area of retroviral studies, in the retroviral drug development, the approach that we took to contain or to suppress the HIV viral infection is by developing drugs that will intervene in each and every stage of the viral replication. I will tell, listen, HIV virus will attack CD4 cells with the help of CCX and CCR5 receptors. So what we did is, we have given tablets to inhibit the attachment of virus. Then, even after giving inhibitory tablets, still some viruses can enter inside the cell. So if any virus enter inside the cell means we have given second class of drugs. Those drugs will destroy the viral capsid. Viral capsid means viral outside cell will be destroyed by the second class of drugs. Even after destroying viral capsids, still there is a chance of biosynthesis of proteins, viral proteins. So we have given third class of drugs that will destroy the viral replication. So anti-transcriptory tablets we will give to the patients. Even after giving anti-replication tablets, still there is a chance of maturation of viral proteins. So we will give fourth class of drugs for killing baby viral particles. Even after killing these baby viral particles, still there is a chance of release of viruses from the cell. So we have fifth class of drugs that will prevent release of viruses from the cell. So literally we should give 12 tablets to a HIV patient. He should take 12 tablets 3 times a day. He should take these tablets morning, afternoon, and night. If he forgot to take this tablet at any one particular day, means that will result in deadly infection in the body. They must take these tablets to get protected from the deadly HIV in their body. They must take 12 tablets. That means 12, 12, 12. They need to take almost 30 tablets, 36 tablets per day. But due to advancements in this pharmacology, now HIV patients need to take only one tablet per day, but the tablet will be very big. Now in this one tablet, it has all the formulas. All 12 tablets has been reduced to one tablet per day, and it is very costly. But due to the CDC and the WHO involvement, the cost of this tablet has been reduced drastically, and that burden was taken on the shoulders of government. So government giving these costly drugs at a free of cost to the HIV patients. So these tablets are called antiretroviral tablets. So these antiretroviral tablets have the formulas or drugs that will inhibit viral attachment, viral penetration, viral uncoating, viral biosynthesis, viral maturation, and viral release. That is why it is very essential to understand the pathway of viral replication. If we have a clear idea about how a virus is replicating, then we can able to develop drugs to intervene these viral replication stages. So by that we can able to develop drugs to treat the patients who has viral infections. Keep in mind, even after taking tablets, you cannot remove HIV virus from the body. HIV has a peculiar feature. If conditions are not favorable, if the patient torturing the virus by giving these tablets, then HIV will take a very clever approach. What HIV virus will do is, it will insert its DNA material in the DNA of a living cell. So we have a normal DNA. Within our normal DNA, it will keep viral DNA. If this is the case, keep in mind, this viral DNA won't replicate. It will stay in the normal DNA. So it will be completely hidden from the immune system. We cannot identify a virus if its DNA is present inside our DNA, because that is our own DNA. We cannot detect viral in our DNA. This is called eclipse phase of the virus. The viruses that have the properties of keeping its DNA inside a human DNA, such stage is called eclipse phase. That means virus will be permanently hidden from the body. Even no matter whatever laboratory test you are doing, you won't get positive for this virus presence. unless you are preparing PCR test. PCR will detect DNA. That is called eclipse phase. If that is the case, how to treat a HIV patient? So the only way we can cure a HIV patient is we need to remove this viral DNA from each and every cell of our body. We need to remove viral DNA present in our normal DNA in all the cells of our body. Is it possible to cut? Is it possible to remove viral DNA from our own DNA from all cells? Breathtakingly complex. Breathtakingly complex. Okay. Very tough to remove viral DNA from all the cells. Keep in mind, in a single DNA, we have 4 billion base pairs of base pairs in a single cell. Out of this 4 billion base pairs, we need to remove just the viral DNA. Recently, we got an advanced technique called CRISPR, cluster regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, who got Nobel Prize in 2020. That CRISPR has the properties of precisely cutting viral DNA from a infected normal DNA portion. So with the help of this CRISPR, first time we have completely cleared a rat who has infected with HIV. So there is a tremendous advancements has been done in the area of at molecular level in molecular biology, especially on viral studies. So our only hope right now is CRISPR. CRISPR has the potential to cure deadly viral diseases. Not only viral diseases, all genetic diseases can be cured by CRISPR technology. It has a precision where we can able to cut the defective genetic material. Okay, so that is different story. So this is a short note on viral replication. Okay, so this is the stages of viral replication. I have given a generalized idea here, but if you go depth, there are different things like how the virus attaching to the cell, how the virus penetrating into the cell, how the virus uncoating. So there are individual steps in each and every phase of this viral replication that I will discuss later. Okay. Then that is why these viruses are classified depending upon how they are inserting their genetic material into the ribosomes or into the nucleus. So depending upon the method of inserting viral genetic material into the cell, these viruses are divided into 7 classes. This classification of virus was given by David Baltimore. So viruses have either DNA viruses or RNA viruses, and this DNA RNA viruses further we have single stranded DNA virus, double stranded DNA virus, single stranded RNA virus, and double stranded RNA virus. And both in the single strand and double stranded, they have positive and negative strands. So single stranded negative sense RNA, double stranded positive sense RNA. Similarly, you have negative and positive for all 7 types. So this is called Baltimore classification, and for this classification, he acquired Nobel Prize. So he has been given a global uniform classification for viruses, which is depending upon their insertion of DNA into the cell. So viruses got at last their position in the taxonomy. So viruses now we can able to classify viruses depending upon their genetic material. So far there is no taxonomy for viruses, but due to involvement and extensive research by David Baltimore, today we are able to classify viruses depending upon their genetic insertion. Okay, so introduction to virology. Viruses are the smallest obligate intracellular organisms, which can be either DNA or RNA viruses. They have no metabolic activity outside the cell. They require a living cell for their replication. They cannot undergo any problem with antibiotics. They cannot grow in inanimate medias. And they are not a prokaryotes or eukaryotes. Okay, so this is it. So in the afternoon lecture, students, I will discuss about families of viruses. So virus to have families. So when I'm saying families, I'm not discussing about human families like Atluri family or not like this. So viruses also have families that I will discuss in the afternoon lecture. Very important. These viral families are damn important that I will discuss in the afternoon lecture. Okay. So afternoon, I will start with families of viruses directly. Can I end this session, students, or shall I continue?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Simon.
Sir, why is it very hard to cure HIV permanently?
Why it is very hard? Very simple, Simon. I will give you a straight answer. See, first of all, virus will present inside the cell. Not only HIV, any virus will present inside the cell. Virus present inside the cell. Now, if we want to kill the virus, first you need to destroy the cell to access the virus. So whatever tablet you are giving, these tablets are going to target the cells that are infected by viruses. Okay, there is no difference between a virus containing cell and a normal cell. So this tablet will act on both normal cell and virus infected cell. Now you can understand the consequences. Due to taking of viral tablets, you are literally damaging your normal cells also. Along with viral cells, you are damaging your own normal cells. So definitely you will get side effects in the patients. They will become very lean, their hair will be lost, their immune system will become weakened, they are susceptible to secondary infections or opportunistic infections. They will die soon because of these side effects. So this is one problem for treating viruses, because viruses present always inside the cell. Then second problem is viruses will change their morphology whenever they are replicating inside the cell. Especially when it is a HIV virus. HIV virus is not a constant virus. I will tell like this. So imagine this is a photocopy. This is a Xerox copy. So when I'm taking a Xerox of this paper, I will get a streak here. Then I will copy that streak paper. Then I will get second streak. Then when I'm copying it again, I will get a third streak. This is how the HIV will replicate in the cell. There is no linearity. There is no rigidity in the HIV viral replication. Always, whenever it is replicating, it will change its morphology. If it is changing its morphology, you may remember, when the virus is in this form, our body will prepare these antibodies. Okay. When the virus changes its form, we need to prepare a different antibody. Then virus will change to other form. Then we need to make another antibody. When virus is changing to different forms, we need to prepare different antibodies. So gradually, the immune system will weaken because of this pleomorphism by the virus. It is changing its morphology each and every second. If that is the case, our antibodies cannot be stabilized to target the virus. Other one is, even preparing vaccines will be very challenging. What are vaccines? Vaccines are the dead viral particles. What type of dead virus I need to give as a vaccine candidate? When I'm giving this shape dead virus, it will change to this shape. When I'm giving this vaccine, it will change to different shape. So even preparation of vaccines is tough for such viruses, such pleomorphic viruses. Thank God we didn't get a retroviral pandemic. Thank God we didn't get any HIV pandemic. If a coronavirus is such a pleomorphic virus, means game over. It is impossible to yeah, it will be a next extinction, just like the way dinosaurs died. It will be the human extinction if we get such a viral disease as a pandemic. So thank God corona is a stabilized virus, corona is a large virus, and corona is a moderately very simple. Actually, it is a stupid virus. So thank God we got a semi-harmful virus pandemic. When I'm saying semi-harmful, that doesn't mean it is not completely harmless. Still, it is causing death in adults, but it is not as deadly as HIV. It is not as deadly as Ebola. Now you got it right, Simon. HIV is highly unstable virus. That is why it is really challenging for us to treat such viral diseases.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So virology is a really interesting subject. The virus itself is a very interesting candidate to discuss, to study. Okay, I will continue in the afternoon lecture. Afternoon, I will discuss about families and families of viruses. Very, very important. Now listen, students. In afternoon lecture, what I'm going to do is, I will give you a clear picture, a clear ideology to identify RNA viruses and DNA viruses. So when I'm saying what is HIV, you should know HIV is a RNA virus. When I'm telling what is hepatitis B, you should tell it is a DNA virus. When I'm saying what is pox virus, you should tell it is a DNA virus. So first of all, you should know what are DNA viruses, what type of DNA viruses we have, and you should have a clear idea about the type of RNA viruses we have. If you don't have this basic understanding, this basic knowledge on what type of virus it is useless for be a lab technician. Because in the laboratory, if it is a DNA virus, we can directly go to PCR. If it is RNA virus, then we should go to RT-PCR. So first you should know what type of virus is it. Is it a RNA virus or is it a DNA virus? Until you are getting clarity on DNA and RNA viruses, I cannot proceed further in virology. Don't worry, I have a very smart approaches to teach you the DNA and RNA viruses. So get ready in the afternoon for learning DNA and RNA viruses. I cannot say by harding, I cannot say cramming. Rather than I will give you a clever idea to memorize DNA and RNA viruses. So don't miss today afternoon session of families of viruses. Is it clear? Can I end this session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Kaushal.